Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? I sure am. The Bitcoin credit card by Gemini earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. Use it like any credit card. Buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee. And right now, you can grab a $200 Bitcoin welcome bonus. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Go to Gemini.com/card to learn more. Terms apply. See the link in the description for more information regarding rates and fees.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Good morning from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Tanner Kern, who does such great work over at DraftKings. We're going to be diving in on these game 2s for Sunday with him, take a look at how he's been evaluating this postseason, and so much more. In the final segment, small slate, we've only got 2 games, but I'm going to give you guys picks and analysis on both of them as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they're making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever. With Edge Boost, 100% of gambling transactions do get approved, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G, that gets you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Saturday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
After the wild card round was very underwhelming, we got an overwhelming start to baseball on Saturday, as for the Milwaukee Brewers, they very nearly outscored the Wisconsin Badgers on Saturday. 9-3, they get the job done against the Chicago Cubs with all 9 runs being scored in the first 2 innings, as Matthew Boyd was starting on short rest. He was hurt by Nico Hoerner's error out there in the field, but not sharp. He gave up 6 runs, 2 of which were earned in 2/3 of an inning. Michael Soroka from there, 3 runs allowed in an inning. Now the good news is the long relievers held down the fort for the Cubs. Aaron Savali, 4 1/3 innings scoreless. Ben Brown, 2 innings scoreless, but by then the damage had been done, and for the Cubs, they do get 3 solo home runs in this game. Ian Happ, he was at Apples, his first home run of the postseason. Michael Busch was able to go deep off of Freddie Peralta as well, his second of the playoffs, and Nico Hoerner was able to go deep off of Jared Koenig for Freddie Peralta. Gives up those 2 solo home runs in 5 2/3 innings. Koenig, he gives up the other solo home run. He went 1 inning. Aaron Ashby, 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Nick Mears, a scoreless inning, so nice easy win for the Brewers, who go 7 of 17 with men in scoring position and do that all on 0 home runs. And then the Blue Jays completely blast the New York Yankees 10-1 the final. For Luke Weaver, he has now given up 5 runs and not recorded a single out this postseason. He came in relief, and he was not relieving whatsoever. Gave up 3 runs without getting a single out. Luis Seal was out long for this game. Gives up 2 solo home runs in 2 2/3 innings. Vlad Guerrero Jr. goes deep off of him, and don't call his name, Alejandro Kirk took him deep. And then Paul Blackburn also gives up a home run to Alejandro Kirk as well. 4 outs out of the bullpen for Blackburn. He gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned. Tim Hill, 1 1/3 innings scoreless. Camilo Duvall, 2 scoreless innings. And then Fernando Cruz, he got a pair of outs out of the bullpen. He allowed a run along the way. And for the Blue Jays, Kevin Gausman, really good start. 1 run allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Louis Varland, Seranthony Dominguez give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And then Brandon Little and Jeff Hoffman, they're both able to end a scoreless inning. The Dodgers, they were able to get it done late against the Philadelphia Phillies. This by a count of 5-3, as for the Phillies, they get up 3-0 early as Shohei Ohtani gives up some runs early, but settles down to give some very nice length. Gives up 3 runs in 6 innings. From there, Tyler Glasnow, 5 outs out of the bullpen. Squirrels, Alex Vesia, and out of the bullpen. And Roki Sasaki, as a closer, was able to give you a scoreless 9th inning. He picks up the save as Cadis for Sanchez. Relatively solid start. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings. Was the victim of David Robertson not being able to hold on inherited runners, as he gave up 2 runs of his own in a third of an inning. Matt Strom then gives up a home run to Teoscar Hernandez in the 7th inning, and from there, Orion Kerkering, Yohan Duran, they're both able to end a scoreless inning, but Philly's unable to get it done there. And then you saw the Detroit Tigers in 11 innings be able to topple the Seattle Mariners this by a count of 3-2, as Troy Melton does give up a solo home run in his 4 innings of work, as Julio Rodriguez took him deep, and George Kirby was taken deep as well. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Kerry Carpenter, he was able to go deep, and then from there, Caleb Ferguson, Edward Pizarro, they combined for a scoreless inning. Gabe Spire and Matt Brashay combined for scoreless innings, 2 scoreless innings between the two of them, and Andres Munoz, he was able to give 2 innings all by himself scoreless, and then Carlos Vargas, he does give up a run in the 11th inning, as Zach McKinstry, his RBI single was the difference, and for the Tigers, bullpen was very impressive. Rafael Montero, while he was Montero Bull, he gave up a run, didn't get a single out of the bullpen, but Brant Herter, Tyler Holton, Tommy Canley, Kyle Finnegan, all ended scoreless inning. You had Will Vest from there give you 2 scoreless innings, and Kadir Montero, he was not Montero Bull, he was able to end a scoreless inning. So to start this round of the postseason, we did see 2 underdogs in the LA Dodgers and the Detroit Tigers get the job done, and we saw 3 overs to 1 under. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Saturday. Now let's take a look forward to Sunday and take a look at if there might be any teams with a little bit of value on the futures market with Tanner Kern, who does great work over at DraftKings. He joins me next on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN family of podcasts.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson. Now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Tanner Kern aboard. He does such great work over at DraftKings, taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. He's doing an amazing job on the football front. He's been doing some UFC. When it comes to the 4th of July, he's getting into hot dog eating mode as well. The man does a little bit of everything. He does so also well. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at his first and last name, Tanner Kern. Last name spelled Kern, and then an underscore after that. And Tanner, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Thank you for joining me, Tanner. And Tanner, we've got ourselves a lot of fun to be had here in the postseason. It's just, how have you taken a look at the first round and day of the postseason? Because we noticed that unders very much reigned supreme in the wild card round, but scoring really picked up on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see that a little bit more in this round just because hitters have more time to adjust. You know, the teams that were on buys have the ability to see some more pitching as well. And also pitchers just getting tired and being spent, right? Bullpens are going to be used a lot more heavily. That's something to look at. I look at a team like the Milwaukee Brewers today that didn't have to do a ton with their bullpen to survive, right? They're going to be in really good shape moving forward. So that might be more of an under series where you look at a team like the New York Yankees right now who were spent coming into the series. There's probably going to be some runs in that Blue Jays Yankees series as well. So that's the things I'm really looking at right now.
Yep, it is going to be a lot of fun to be taking a look at that series. And we just got the Game 2 opening price listed up there, as it's going to be Trey Yasevich going up against Max Fried in that game number 2. And right now with the Blue Jays, they're right around about a plus 130, plus 135 underdog in a total of 8. Obviously, Max Fried, the much more experienced pitcher in this spot. But how do you take a look at that game number 2 after the Yankees, let's call it what it is, they got just completely clocked and had to use a lot of that bullpen with Luis Eel not lending a lot of length?
Yeah, a 3-game series is a lot different from a 5-game series. You look at a 3-game series, you don't have room to say, hey, we'll tip our cap and we'll get them tomorrow. Where in a 5-game series, you definitely have a little more leeway. I think we saw that with the New York Yankees towards the end of the game when the wheels came off, the players kind of gave up, and that was that. But in this one, I fully expect the New York Yankees to come back, and you're getting New York for minus 150 right now. It's a really good price. Minus 1.5 plus 115 on the run line is definitely a good deal as well, considering they're on the road, guaranteed the 9 at bats, and they're in a must-win spot. You can't go back home being down 2-0 here and expect to win 3 in a row. It just does not happen that many times, right? So this is a spot where I really do like the New York Yankees to find a way to get it done here.
Yep, with the New York Yankees, they are going to have the pitching advantage here. And with regards to the New York Yankees, how critical do you think that it is for them to be able to go back to New York? Because you could tell that they were a little bit of a fish out of water in game number 1. Part of that is because they had to start Luis Eel, but they're going to be able to get Carlos Rodon going in game number 3. And I think that that's going to be massive for them, as the Blue Jays, you'd have to think, would be starting Shane Bieber in that game number 3.
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees are still in a good spot if they can find a way to win this one, but they're going to have a massive sense of urgency. I don't think it really matters being on the road or at home. I mean, New York was a really good road team this year at 44-37. This is just one of those games where it's like the Yankees are coming off a competitive wild card series. You're bound to have a letdown. Toronto's been chopping at the bit to get New York at home, and they got their ace on the mound as well. So it just wasn't really a great spot for New York. But, I think they'll come back to earth tomorrow a little bit. Max Fried will show up and they'll get it done. But yeah, totally must-win game for them here. Being on the road, being at home, I just think they can't have Luis Gil going and expect to win games.
Yeah, we saw that with Lucio giving up back-to-back solo homers and being pulled immediately. That was not great for them. As joining me on the show, we do have Tanner Kern, who does tremendous work over at DraftKings. And how do you take a look at the winner of that Blue Jays versus Yankees series and how they might be faring against either the Tigers or the Mariners? We are doing this as we don't know the final of that game number one between the Tigers and the Mariners, as that was a very late game. But I do take a look at both of those teams with a lot of intrigue. And for Seattle, I think that they will probably have a little bit of a better chance against either the Yankees or the Toronto Blue Jays with the way that they have just a little bit more depth with regards to their starting pitching. And for Detroit, it just feels like things have been a little bit shaky for them in general.
Yeah, the Mariners made the moves to go out and win not only the American League, but the World Series this year. You look at their pitching staff right now: Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller. I mean, that's a great starting rotation, especially if they can get it into a 7-game series in the American League Championship Series. I do fear the Tigers because, for most of the season, Detroit was one of the best teams in baseball, right? We fully expected them to be the 1 seed in the American League and rolling right into the postseason. Obviously, the end of the season did not necessarily go their way, but this is a team where, they can win at any time. They're good. They can strike. I mean, I think the Seattle Mariners are better equipped, to beat anyone in this league, where the Tigers, Blue Jays, and Yankees are kind of in the same boat in my mind. But the American League is still wide open. And as we know in baseball, anything can happen. So I would take the Mariners right now against anybody in the league, but Detroit, New York, and Toronto are still more than capable of beating them.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that we've got ourselves a lot of intrigue in the American League. And how much more open do you think the American League might be than the National League? Because I think that in the National League, it comes down to me, the winner of this Dodgers versus Phillies series. I think that they're going to the World Series. I think that they'd be able to take down either the Brewers and the Cubs. And we'll get to the Cubs in a second. They're in very, very rough shape after what we saw in game number one. But I do think that with whoever wins this series, I feel like that's the team that's going to go to the World Series and be the favorite in the World Series.
Yeah, it would make sense, right? I mean, these are the two best teams in baseball from when it comes to pitching staff, offense. It doesn't matter. And nobody in baseball concerns me like the Dodgers or the Phillies. I would put the Cubs and the Brewers and any team in the American League in a different class right now than the Phillies and the Dodgers as well. So both those teams are loaded. That could be the World Series right now, in my opinion. The winner of that series is most likely going to win the World Series. As we know, anything can happen in baseball, but those two teams are just leaps and bounds better than everybody across from them. So I fully expect that to be, the series we look back on and say, yeah, that's the new favorite to win the World Series.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And certainly we've got ourselves a pair of rock-solid teams here. And Shohei Ohtani being able to go 6 innings for the LA Dodgers, that was certainly a good sign for them, as both of the National League series, they are going to have a day off on Sunday before they get going on Monday. And I think that that's also very, very massive, as the Cubs, they just got completely lambasted by the Milwaukee Brewers on Saturday. And just how do you take a look at that series? Because the Brewers, they're opening up as a very slim favorite in terms of that game number 2. You'd have to think that it would be Quinn Priester who would be going in that one, but we shall see. The Brewers have yet to announce a starter, and looking like Shota Imanaga should be going for the Cubs. But I just feel like with the Cubs, this is a team that's a little bit outgunned. And for the Brewers, I don't like their chances against either the Phillies or the Dodgers, but this does feel like a series that they should be able to take.
It does, but also I think we're going to see a little bit of resiliency from the Cubs. We do see in the postseason these teams that backs against the wall, tend to respond. And, the Cubs having an off day is probably the best possible thing for them. Coming off an emotional series win against the San Diego Padres. I know they dominated that series, but that was not an easy series for them to win. So you get to recharge the bullpen a little bit after spending a lot of guys. And I look at even how the game went. You get off to a hot start, and that first inning for the Milwaukee Brewers was just the dagger, and there were a lot of hits, hard hits, right? They had 3 leadoff double to start the game, but there were also plenty of moments where balls just found the hole and then they made the air, right? A few plays we take back, it could have been a lot closer of a game. So I think the Cubs are going to respond. I think they're going to find a way to win game 2, and then, going back home, they're in a decent spot. I still think the Brewers ultimately win the series. I do like the Cubs to pick up a couple wins here. I could see this easily going 5 and getting back to Milwaukee if Chicago wins game 2.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that that is going to be really intriguing to be taking a look at as well. And then the one game, too, that we really yet to dive in terms of the National League side of things, what we're going to be seeing between Dodgers and Phillies. Now, we are doing this without any sort of an opener, but we saw the Dodgers close as about an even money / minus 105, very slight underdog against the Phillies in game number 1. And I would have to think with a pitching matchup of Blake Snell versus Jesus Luzardo that the Dodgers are going to be some sort of a favorite. I'm just intrigued as to how big of a favorite because Blake Snell has obviously had great numbers this year, and Jesus Luzardo's second half of the season has not been great. But as we know, the Phillies, they might have the best home field advantage of any team in these baseball playoffs, and I think that that is going to be a really fun one for Monday.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. The thing about the Dodgers is they know how to play in big spots. And that's, this isn't necessarily football, right? Where you're on the road and it's hard to communicate and all that. Like the Dodgers are going to be fine no matter what stadium they're playing in because of the Dodgers. And, even tonight we're recording this as the game's going on. They were down 3-0. They come back, they scored 2. They're in a position right now to potentially do something. Who knows how that game's going to end up. But the Dodgers are resilient. They're always going to fight back. Especially if they were to lose game 1, I think we're going to see the Dodgers as a much heavier favorite because people know that they have to win that game. We're going to see a lot of money come in on that side. I think the Dodgers are going to get game 2. I feel like the Phillies have a really good chance in this series, but they need to play perfect. And this is definitely one of those games here where, I do expect the Dodgers to get game 2. But as long as the Phillies don't make a ton of mistakes, they're going to be in the series to the end.
Yep, they certainly are going to be. And then we are doing this one as there's no numbers up on the board for it as well, but we know that in game 2 it is going to be Luis Castillo going up against Tariq Skubal. And if the Tigers are not a favorite, that would be a big giant shock to me, but I think that that is going to be a very interesting one as well because we have seen Skubal on the road be rock solid with his lone weakness really being balls that don't leave the infield and his overall fielding. But I think that that is going to be a big game for the Tigers as well because if they take that one, I feel like they've got themselves a good chance to be able to face off against that winner of the Blue Jays versus Yankees series.
Oh yeah, for sure. The Detroit Tigers are in a good spot in game 2. If they steal game 1, it's their series to take for sure with Skubal going in game 2. I think the Tigers will be just fine in game 2. And overall, the way to get to Skubal is you just got to work pitches. And I think that's the game inside the game that we're going to be seeing in a lot of these playoff matchups. It's who can make the plays, working long pitch counts, getting starters out of the game, getting through the bullpen. And that's something to look at in this Tigers series as well. So I think the Tigers are in really good shape with Skubal on the mound in game 2, depending on what the price is going to be there. This is a spot where I'd take the Tigers in a minute.
Yep, exactly. We will see what that opener is going to be moving forward, but I think that that is going to be a big one as well. And then we've talked a lot about these individual games. We've talked a lot about the American League and the National League. Is there any futures that you'd be looking to take right now? Or is this a postseason that you'd rather be playing a little bit more game to game? Because I just take a look at the overall landscape of baseball right now. I take a look at everything that we've got going on right now, and it just feels to me like it's very, very difficult, in my opinion, to be taking a look at a lot of futures with the way that things are very wide open, especially even though we do think that the winner of that Dodgers versus Phillies series is going to be going to the World Series. That is going to be a whale of a series in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, I've been taking a lot of series prices here and looking game to game a little bit more. I think the Phillies and the Dodgers are definitely the two teams that you want to look at for World Series futures, league futures, whatever you choose to play. But like even right now, again, we're recording this in game. You're getting the Dodgers 5-1 to win the World Series. Before the game, they were, plus 350 in that range. But since the Phillies have 1-run lead right now, you're getting the Dodgers for a good time. So it depends on when you want to jump in here. Like the Dodgers right now, 5-1 to win the World Series. Brewers 5-1. I would take the Dodgers at 5-1 compared to the Brewers. Another route that you could take here is going with the Mariners at like plus 600 or the Yankees at plus 600 to win the World Series, just because they have the easier path to getting there. So you don't have to mess around with the Phillies and the Dodgers. And again, if they get to the World Series, anyone has a chance. But yeah, this is a spot where I think, it's really hard to play futures right now because there's two teams that stand above the rest.
Yep, I agree with you there. And it's going to be a tremendous postseason. Tanner, you're doing a great job of being able to gauge it all, but you're doing much more than baseball. You're doing some football. Like I said, you're doing a little bit of UFC. I know that you're getting some for basketball as well. So love to get people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yep. So you can follow me at Tanner Kern on all social media platforms, and then every day on the DraftKings Sportsbook social channels, and then my podcast Ride the Line on Tuesdays Thursdays and Fridays, and you can get that wherever your podcasts are available.
Tanner, he's doing such an amazing job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. So a big thanks to Tanner for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on both games on the betting board for this baseball Sunday as we touch them all.
Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? I sure am. The Bitcoin credit card by Gemini earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. Use it like any credit card. Buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee, and right now you can grab a $200 Bitcoin welcome bonus. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Go to Gemini.com/card to learn more. Terms apply. See the link in the description for more information regarding rates and fees.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Always great to be joined by Tanner Kern, who does such amazing work over at DraftKings. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. He did so once again today. So a big thanks to Tanner for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis for both American League Divisional Series games that we've got for this Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GNet_1. Very easy to go in Las Vegas rotation order today. The early game, Yankees versus Blue Jays is first, and then Tigers versus Mariners, which I do have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. As I'm recording, we don't have openers, but I've got my handicap. That'll be the game that we do second. So how about if we start with Yankees versus Blue Jays, 941, 942 on the card. Matt Max Fried goes for the Yanks, and Trey Yesevich is on the bump for Toronto. Toronto, an underdog of between plus 125 to a plus 137. Meanwhile, minus 144 to minus 155 is that number on the Yankees with a total of 8. Over is minus 110 to a minus 120, and the under is between even and minus 110. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under. I did set my total out at 7.7 now for Yesevich. This is actually going to be just his 4th career MLB start, but guy has been very dominant in these starts that he has had. 5 runs allowed in 14 innings. He has been giving you about 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. The walks are a little bit of an issue that stems all the way back to his time at the minor league level. And at the minor leagues, he was getting 14.7 strikeouts to 3.8 walks per 9 innings. But it's not a lot of home run. Goes up against the Yankees lineup that has been number 1 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis and total runs per game. But they can be a little bit more hit or miss when they are away from home. They don't get the short porch like they get over at Yankee Stadium. Obviously, Trent Grisham, Aaron Judge, these guys have been good at being able to move line, get on base. For Judge, he in the postseason actually has a 438 on base. He has not been choking this postseason, not as he's playing the 50-plus homers that he did during the regular season, but he's been fine. It's really been Giancarlo Stanton, who hasn't really hit well dating back to that series against the Boston Red Sox, so they're going to need to get a little bit more out of him. Anthony Volpe has actually been moving the line here in the postseason. You've got Cody Bellinger at 20-plus home runs during the regular season, and this is a lineup that 1 through 9, if they want to, they could throw out their all 9 guys who had at least 19 home runs during the regular season, though Austin Wells is sub 280 on base. That's a little bit of a concern. And then for the Blue Jays, obviously George Springer was very rock solid with over a 375 on base and 25 plus home runs during the regular season. Flyger Jr. had just 23 home runs during the regular season, but he hit one yesterday. He's been able to do a nice job getting on base. The Blue Jays have been averaging now 5.45 runs per game if you include the regular season and the postseason. Since the All-Star break, that's number 1 in the American League. They get Anthony Santander back in the fold after he missed much of the season as well, so that gives them a little bit more bang for their buck. Obviously, he doesn't provide a lot of power, but Isaiah Kiner-Falefa can find a way to move the line. And for the Blue Jays, they didn't have to go through as much of the bullpen as the New York Yankees did yesterday. Now, the Yankees, they were able to save David Benner, so that's going to be able to help them out, but Camilo Duvall, Tim Hill, Paul Blackburn, they all had to throw at least 20 pitches yesterday, so that's a little bit rough, and Luke Weaver just has not been good here in the postseason. 5 runs allowed with 0 outs, so that's not great to say the least. Meanwhile, for the Blue Jays, while they did have to use Louis Varland, Brandon Little, and Sir Anthony Dominguez yesterday, all four guys that came into the game, they threw 17 pitches or fewer. You've got Yuriel Rodriguez, who can deliver multiple innings of long relief as well. You can go to a guy like an Eric Lauer. So Yasevich, even though he might only go like 3 or 4 innings, there's plenty of long relief here for the Blue Jays, which is why I do think that this price is a little bit too lofty, and I will be in on the Blue Jays on the money line. I did set them as an underdog in this case of a plus 123. And for the Yankees, I do think that Max Fried is going to be able to give you a good start. For Max Fried, he comes in really rocking and rolling. Overall, between the regular season and the postseason, has an ERA that's right around about at 2.75 or so. I had to do the math myself to be able to add up the regular season and the postseason. But that said, you've been able to get a lot of good production out of him. 0.6 home runs, 2.4 walks per 9 innings. And I do think that he's going to be able to go out there, give you a relatively good start. But again, I have those bullpen concerns. The Yankees, bottom 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA since the beginning of the month of July. So somebody told 7.7. I like the under, and I do like the Blue Jays at a plus 125 or better on the money line. And then 9.43, 9.44 is off the board currently. Tigers and Mariners, we do know that Luis Castillo is going to be on the bump for the Mariners, and Tariq Skubal goes for the Tigers, and I've got my handicap 6 or less. I'm in on the over, 6.5 or higher. The under, I set my total at 6.4, and with the Tigers, I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 141 on the money line, plus 143 or greater. That is going to be a take for me on the Mariners. For Luis Castillo, 3.54 ERA this season, but a career low 8.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. That does go down to about a 2.60 ERA when he is at home, though. And then Tariq Skubal, this guy's been amazing between the regular season and the postseason. 2.18 ERA, 11.4 strikeouts, and 1.6 walks per 9 innings, giving up 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. And he does face off against a lineup in the Seattle Mariners that they just don't generate the same amount of offense at home rather than away from home. That's just because Seattle is such a pitcher-friendly ballpark. About 4.3 runs per game at home, a little bit over 5.1 runs per game away from home. Though you do have big dumper Cal Raleigh, who had 60 home runs during the regular season, and Eugenio Suarez between his 2 stops with the Diamondbacks and Seattle, over 45 home runs, though, in a Seattle uniform, has been hitting below the Bedell's line of 200. He's actually gotten a lot of stolen bases and a lot of on base out of Josh Naylor. You've had Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez be able to give you 25 plus home runs, and both have been able to do a solid job of reaching base. And for the Detroit Tigers, it's a steady team with regards to their offense. 11th in terms of run creation here this season. Typically, they're throwing out a lineup of like all but one guy hitting for at least a 245 at Spencer Torkelson, and more around about a 240 during the regular season, but 333 on base. You had Gary Carpenter go deep yesterday. He's been able to give you 25 bombs. And for the Tigers, I was a little bit surprised that they did get the 4 innings that they did out of Troy Melton yesterday, so that saved a little bit more of the bullpen than you thought, though you're probably not going to need to go too much into it with Tariq Skubal. That said, it has been a little bit of a, shall we say, hit or miss bullpen for this team. You do have to figure that on call you're going to have a guy like a Brendan Hennefy who's been able to give you about a 3 or so ERA this season. Tommy Kahnle has been a disaster, as Rafael Montero has been so inconsistent as well, so those are a little bit of concerns. But Kyle Finnegan, ever since he's gotten to Detroit, he's been posting up a sub 250 ERA. And then for the Seattle Mariners, the top guys have been relatively rock solid. They did get 5 good innings out of George Kirby yesterday, so it's not like they went overly deep into the bullpen, though obviously you would like to use as little of the bullpen as possible. Gabe Spire, Edward Bizardo came into the game yesterday. Both of these guys who've given you a sub 3 ERA. You've obviously had Andres Munoz along with Matt Brash be really good in the 8th and 9th inning as well, so very interesting circumstance here. I do think that for Luis Castillo, he gives up some runs here, and I think that this is going to be a low-scoring game out there in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. 6 or less in on the over, 6.5 or higher the under, with the Tigers willing to lay up to a minus 141 on that money line, plus 143 or greater. I'm going to be in on the Mariners, and that'll wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Tanner Kern of DraftKings for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, Larsium, the name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day throughout the postseason on this podcast. Might take a day or 2 off when we've got those updates during the World Series, but that's it. Every day that we've got games, you're getting a fresh podcast, so I'll be back with you once you get them all. Thank you.
Did you know your credit card points and miles can lose value to inflation? Credit card companies often reduce the redemption value of your points and miles. Now, imagine a credit card with rewards that can grow in value. With the Gemini credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. Every swipe at the store or gas pump earns you instant rewards deposited straight to your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Visit Gemini.com/card today. Check out the link in the description for more information on rates and fees. Again, if you're looking to invest in Bitcoin but don't know where to start, the Gemini credit card makes it easy.